When I was 6 years old, my younger sister was born, and my parents decided that we needed a bigger house. I remember going to open houses with them and wandering around trying to figure out which bedroom would be mine. But after not finding a good fit, they decided that we'd be better off building something new so that they could customize it a bit. For some inspiration, we took a tour of one of Frank Lloyd Wright's houses, and thus began my love of architecture. As our new house was built, my parents were able to make sure that every light switch was in the right spot, and they even had all of the countertops raised up slightly, since my family is mostly giants. And I was convinced I wanted to be an architect, at least until high school, when I took a summer course in architecture at a nearby college. Turns out I don't want to build cool houses. I just want to own one. I became a fervent user of Zillow. It's still one of the only just for fun apps that I have on my phone, and if you ever catch me scrolling, most likely that's what I'm looking at. And it was on Zillow that I found a home that left me speechless. This was it. This was the one for me. It was featured in Architectural Digest since it was owned and partially redesigned by the actor Jason Statham. And it sold for a whopping $3.8 million a couple of years ago. They apparently tried to sell it again at the beginning of 2021 for $6.1 million. Looks like the listing was removed though. But I became convinced that someday I would own that house. Or I'd move somewhere in Palm Springs since it is the mid-century modern capital of the world. Flash forward to September 2021, just 2 months ago. I had just moved to California, and one of the first things that I did when I had a free moment was take a drive up into the hills to check out that house. In short, I hated the neighborhood. Absolutely hated it. I do not like the hills. I don't understand the appeal. The streets are really narrow, the road is super slanted, and I'm from the Midwest. I'm a flatlander. The house itself is gorgeous, but it's not enough to cancel out all those negatives. And I thought, well, Palm Springs might still be an answer. So I planned a trip, and I got there in early November. I was finally there, the mid-century modern capital of the world. But while I drove around scoping out all the famous old houses, I realized this also wasn't for me. I was thrilled to be there to appreciate the local design museum and talk to a couple of other mid-century fans, but I didn't aspire to live in this dry, blazing hot desert in this small city where lots of the inhabitants are either tourists or wedding parties. This experience and that ideal day experiment that I did recently both really helped to open my eyes to the idea that sometimes dreams are better off as fantasies. Sometimes they're not meant to become reality. But in the same thread, I've begun to realize how useful it is to act out my dreams and to try to get as close as I can to see if I can't just punch some holes in that dream. It's easy to say, well, yeah, you should just try to focus on being happy in the present and where you are currently. But I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with aspiring to also do something else in the future or experience new things in the future. The problem comes when you become attached to these dreams that aren't ever vetted. I did spend a morning this past weekend walking around a couple of neighborhoods in Chicago and pretending I lived there, scouting out a few Zillow finds that I thought were interesting. I do have to say, it still kind of feels like home. Highly recommend acting out your dreams. Highly recommend it. Ooh,